I was interviewed on a podcast a couple of days ago, and the host asked me, why is human design suddenly everywhere? She said, every place I turn, I seem to see people talking about human design. She had known about it for 6 or 7 years. Like, she had gotten her chart, and a number of her friends had gotten their charts, and they had kind of looked at their types and so on. And it had kind of come and gone. And more recently, she's seeing that it's just showing up all over the place. She's seeing people talking about it. So she asked me, what do I think that's about? So I wanted to share with you my thoughts about that, because you might be one of those people who have come to human design fairly recently. And I'm curious, actually, if you would be willing to put in the comments why you're attracted to human design. Why are you watching this video? Why have you come to my channel? Why are you looking at human design? Because I would love to know your point of view about that. But what I shared on this podcast was that we are in a very transformative time. We've said throughout COVID that we're in an unprecedented time, right? And it has been true in many, many different levels. And given that, I think that we're looking for new solutions and new ways to be in the world. For many of us, I think the people who are really waking up to the bigger issues that are here in our world, like climate change and ecological destruction and systemic racism and sexism and inequality across the planet. And now we've got a war going on in Eastern Europe. We're going, there must be a better way. And the way that we have done things in the past has led us to some really challenging situations that we're in now. I do like to think that a lot of people in the past weren't necessarily aware of the negative consequences that were going to arise from the things that we've done, and that a lot of people really wanted to help us have a better lifestyle, to have an easier life, to be able to live longer, to have a greater sense of well-being, and so on. And in many parts of the world, I think our lifestyle has led to that, although there's all kinds of other consequences, both in terms of what have happened to the environment, but also, people are working more now than ever. I don't know that our lives are easier. I hear from people a lot that they feel like their lives are difficult. So we haven't necessarily manifested the thing that we've wanted to, or that maybe some of our forebears wanted to. So we're looking for different ways to be in the world, different ways to understand who we are, and certainly new perspectives on how to move forward. I imagine if you're here that you are one of us who want to live a meaningful life, that you want to do something that's going to help the world make a better place, that you want to live a life that's on purpose, that you want to make the contribution that you came here to make, that you care about the planet and you care about other people, but you may not be sure how to do that. You look at maybe your parents' life or what has happened in recent history, and you think, well, no, that I don't want to try to reproduce that. I want to do something different, and I'm not sure what it is. And human design presents us with a different way of understanding who we are and what we can be really in the world. One of the things that I think attracts people to human design is that it's an energy system. It's not a personality system like Myers-Briggs or even like the Enneagram, which is personality and spiritual. It is a system that shows us how our energy systems work. So in that respect, it's more like the traditions of the chakra system comes out of the yoga traditions, which is part of the basis for human design. So it's a little bit more like that. And in yoga, we have many, many different maps of the human energy system. Or in Chinese medicine and in Ayurvedic medicine, there are these maps of the human energy system. And so I would put human design more in that category than I would in a personality category, although It does have personality implications in a variety of different ways. But we're drawn to energy because we're understanding that personality and psychology is only one part of who we are. And I think that certainly in the United States and the Western world, we've become more psychologically sophisticated, but we're realizing that that's only part of the story, right? There's actually a whole lot more going on. So we're interested to understand the energetic part of us as well. And it has not been a part of the Western tradition. It's been much better understood in what we call the East or in Asia. Energy is one component. I also think that we're looking for hope and direction, and we want to feel empowered. We want to have a sense of agency, but we don't want to do that in the old ways of the power over. We're recognizing that there are a lot of exploitative and extractive ways that we've gained power in the world, and we don't want to keep on doing that. We don't want to necessarily just get a fancy car or a big house or accumulate money or accumulate, a bigger screen TV. Right? We're recognizing, that's not necessarily going to make me happy. And that capitalism and consumerism is actually part of the problem is that it generates desires for things that we don't actually even want. And then so many people end up in a lot of debt as a result. So we're getting a lot more perspective on this, and we're waking up to the ways that we've been conditioned to participate in this world. And we're not so sure that we want to do it anymore. But then what do we do? At the same time, though, we want to make a good living. We want to live an abundant and a prosperous life. But we want to do it with a sense of enoughness and of sufficiency, and to do it sustainably, because we recognize the ways that money has been made in the past has been to the detriment of, our companion species, our forests, our rivers, our oceans, and to lots of the world's people. So there is a lot of desire that's demanding new ways of understanding who we are, what our role is in the world, how we can contribute to being a part of the solutions to the challenges that we're in, and how we can make the world a better place. We want to have better relationships. We want to understand how to really connect, and how to create thriving partnerships, both intimate love partnerships, but also partnerships in our working relationships, partnerships with our coworkers and our managers if you're in a larger company. We want to know how to relate to our kids. We want to be able to bring up our kids in a way where they're going to be empowered individuals. They're going to be creative. They're going to be individual. They're going to be healthy, and they're going to thrive. And part of that is better understanding the dynamic, the relationship dynamics between us both, in our families and our close beloveds, our friends, and as we go in concentric circles out into the world. So it's these desires and aspirations and new understandings that I think is driving people to look for something like human design. And human design, as I said, is an energy system, and that in itself is appealing. But it is also a template for an evolving humanity. And in that, I mean both for us individually, because we each have our own individual human designs, but then also the human design system and the human design chart is something that all of us have access to, whether it's what we call defined or what we call open in the chart, right? So what the specific characteristics of our own individual design is one component, but the other is all the other aspects of the human design system that we also have access to, but it's not part of what I would call our core energy. Human design presents to us your soul curriculum. Every aspect of the human design system has multiple ways of expressing it. There's over 100 different archetypal energies, and each one of them can be expressed in the most empowered, the most awakened, the highest expression, if you will. And then it can also be expressed with what I call the shadow aspect, which is where we're kind of stuck in a power over paradigm, and we are aiming to get control of situations or other people. It can lead us to be manipulative, often, typically unconsciously. But it's nevertheless, it's part of our conditioning that's leading us to do that. And then there's also the disempowered aspect where we're either giving away our power or we're rejecting a particular kind of energy because we've seen people acting it out in that shadow way where they're trying to grab a hold of power and manipulate others. And so our soul curriculum lies in our ability to be able to express the most empowered and the most awakened, the highest expression of that particular energy. And for each one of us, we have our own specific aspects, which have to do with our definition, our type, our strategy, our profile, and our definition. But then also the other aspects, which are not defined in our charts, which means it's not colored in when you look at your chart, but you still have access to those energies and you're still going to be expressing them. I know I have energies in my chart that I feel deeply connected to, and yet they're not colored in my chart. But through my life experience, I have learned how to experience them and express them. And so our soul curriculum is how do we always have agency through expressing the most empowered. And when I say empowered, I mean power from within, right? It's like we build that power inside so that then we can share power with each other. We can acknowledge each other as sovereign beings. We can be sovereign of our own lives. And then we can come together. We can rotate power between each other. We can share power. We can allow other people to be in power in certain areas of our lives while we're, more in power in this area. So we're really digesting and changing the way that we understand and express power. And human design has very, very specific ways of helping us to be able to do that. In this way, it can help us to understand our potential in really very different ways than I've ever seen it described in any other system that I've ever looked at. And I've looked at a lot of systems. It can give you insights into your core characteristics, your definition that you may not have had any language for. It's never been pointed out to you. You've never seen it reflected back to you in the world around you. And it can help you to get a new perspective on aspects of yourself that you might have thought of as character flaws because it doesn't fit in. It's maybe deemed not appropriate. You may have been acting out a kind of disempowered aspect of an energy that human design will map out for you, and you didn't know what to do about it. There are situations where your energy kind of grabs a hold of you and makes you do things, and you're like, later on, why did I do that? Or why did I say that? Or why did I act that way? Why was I afraid and I hid and I didn't speak up? Or why did I blurt things out and, demand attention at certain times? These are things that I know I have done because I have an open throat. These are aspects of having an open throat. And I didn't know why I did them before. But when I discovered human design and I learned what it meant to have an open throat, now I know how to command the wisdom of my open throat. I know how to use it to my benefit rather than finding myself and embarrassing myself in certain situations. And I've been able to flip that around, and that's been part of my particular soul curriculum. I'm really delighted that there are more and more people watching these videos who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s, because I'll tell you, I've done a lot of readings for people in their 50s and 60s, and one of the things I hear over and over again from people in those age ranges is, wow, how different my life would have been if I had known all of this when I was younger. So I am delighted that this information is getting to those of you who are in younger generations. And you're going to be able to use this to be able to set up your life really differently and to be able to access what I call your superpowers and to be able to utilize those and then switch the things that you may have felt were character flaws for you or liabilities for you, things about yourself that you didn't like very much, but you didn't know what to do about it. And you can turn those into real strengths. I want to share a few examples with you from different clients I've had and people I've done readings for, because I think it'll make this a bit more tangible for you. So there was one woman who came for a reading and then became a client who was in her 60s. she'd had full careers, and she was kind of looking for what she wanted to do next in her life. And I took a look at her chart and I said, do you have any idea how intuitive you are? And she sort of looked at me and she said, no, not really. Then I was able to point it out to her in her chart and say, these are the characteristics of the type of intuition that you have. She then decided that she wanted to work with me as a client, and I led her through a variety of different exercises that helped her to be able to get out of her left brain, because in the corporate work that she had done before that, it was very heavily focused on her left brain, and she'd been very good at it. She'd learned how to use her left brain. Everybody can learn how to do that, even if it's not so defined in your chart. I have too. I don't have a lot of left brain definition. I have some, but not that much. But I learned how to really do that. Many of us do, right? Because that's what our culture tells us is valuable. So she was like that. And what happened is that a whole new world opened up for her. It had never occurred to her that she could really have a spiritual life. She didn't know that she was really intuitive. She didn't know that she could, for example, ask her body, what would be the right thing for her to do, which is what, as a generator, she could do using her sacral authority. So when she learned those things, her life went in a completely different direction, both than it had ever gone before, and also than in the one that she was anticipating it would go in when she and I first met. Another woman who came to me, who was working in a corporate job, and one of the things that she expressed was that she had a lot of anxiety around what other people thought of her. And we located this both in her human design chart and also in her life experience about why she might have that much concern about what other people thought about her. And we were able to emphasize other parts of her human design chart that she could identify with, and then also change her expression of a particular gate, which is where that anxiety about what other people think was located for her in her specific chart. Lots of people have anxiety about what other people think. I think it's very common, but for her, it was located in a particular gate. So we were able to look at that gate. And as I mentioned a minute ago, she was able to kind of flip that from the disempowered aspect of it more into the more empowered aspect and into the more awakened, higher expression of that. And as a result, her anxiety went down. She stopped caring about what other people thought about about her and what she was doing. And she started doing a whole lot more of what she really wanted to do. She made more space for herself in her life, and she was just much happier. Another woman who was in my Activate Your Superpowers class last year, during the coaching that we did during the Activate Your Superpowers class. And you can actually go and watch this coaching right here if you want to. It's about 10 minutes or so. It's towards the beginning of that video. So you can go and check that out and watch this for yourself. But what we discovered in her coaching together is she was working with her sacral authority. She's a generator. And so she was asking her sacral authority, which is like your gut, right? It's like your gut instinct. She kept asking her sacral and she was not getting a clear answer. The sacral goes, mm-hmm, or mm-mm, right? It's a yes, no. It doesn't give you words and it doesn't give you explanations or anything. And she kept asking, and she said, Maggie, it's quiet. It doesn't tell me anything. I'm not getting anything from it. And what we discovered is that she was so in her head about this particular decision that she wanted to make. There was a project that she had set for herself some years before, and she was kind of halfway through it, and she kept thinking, I should finish this. Can I just whip myself into shape and get myself to finish it? And she kept asking her sacral about it, and her sacral wasn't saying anything. And I said, well, yeah, but, are you sure that this is the right time for you to be doing this? And she was like, yes. And I'm like, well, that's your head talking. That's not your sacral. So through the coaching that we did, what she discerned was that her body was like, I don't need to do this now at all. Her body was like, I don't have an urgency around this at all. She had retired recently, and I was encouraging her to just rest more, not to feel that she had to, be working, and certainly not that she needed to try to make herself do something that she didn't have energy for, and that a lot of her really didn't want to do. Through that coaching together, she was able to realize from the inside, I asked her questions and kind of reflected things back to her, but she could feel it on the inside. It's like, oh, you know what? I really don't have to do this right now, do I? And she was also able to gain perspective on the part of her that was kind of beating up on her and telling her that she needed to be doing something right now because her mind had made that decision. And then she was able to let it go. It was pretty miraculous. I really encourage you to go watch that video. If you have a mind that kind of keeps telling you something to do, but you don't have energy for it and you're resisting it, I think you might find that really helpful. I did a couple of readings for a couple of women recently, one of whom through our coaching, because I do a lot of coaching when I do my readings, she discovered that she had a lot of splenic fear. She had a lot of fear that was activated in the spleen center, and that was really making her tired and holding her back. Because when I looked at her chart, I was like, you should have a lot of energy based on all of the motors you have defined in your chart. You should have a lot of energy. She's like, I don't have energy. I feel really tired. And so we kind of unpacked why she was tired. And what we got to was realizing that she had this fear that was instinctual fear that was being generated out of her spleen, which is one of the centers in human design. And I just really encouraged her to be able to move forward. And if the fear came up, and there were like 5 different ones, she had 5 different gates activated on the spleen. So she had a lot, right? She had the fear of the past and the fear of the future and the fear of getting it wrong, the fear of not knowing enough, the fear of letting people down, right? She had all of those fears. And I said to her, just anytime those come up, just to go, that's just my fears of my spleen. It's just my splenic fears, and to pull her energy out of that. And instead be able to keep moving forward with what her aspirations are and what her heart really wanted to do and what she was clear she was really here for, but that she had been allowing this fear to get in her way. And that in fact, she had gotten so identified with those fears that she was suppressing her genuine energy. And that's why she was so tired. This is something I find a lot with people, is that the reason they're tired is not because they're burned out. It's because they're suppressing either what they really want, or they're suppressing their emotions, or they're suppressing just a part of their energy that they don't know how to deal with. They either don't know how to deal with it, or they don't want to deal with it. And so they're suppressing it. And then that will make them really tired. So the last example was a woman who, when I read her chart, I just said, "Oh, honey, you have got so much going for you. You really do." And I laid out all the different pieces of what she had going for her. And she had a difficult time kind of owning it. And she shared with me that she had been very conditioned while she was growing up to kind of take down her ego and to kind of push her down, squelch her. And she had lost her confidence, and that she didn't really believe in herself on some level. And I just said to her, you know what, that is all conditioning, because you have got so much power, intuition, intelligence, potential in your human design chart. There's really no reason that you can't be excelling at what it is that you want to be doing. Because she came to me for support with her career. I said, there's no reason that you can't be successful at that except for this conditioning. So my recommendation is that you work to really liberate yourself from that conditioning. These are just a few of many examples that I could give you of the way that human design gives us a different perspective on ourselves than we typically have, and also a different perspective on our potential and on our conditioning and how we can really live our lives fully in the world. Human design can help identify and shift your perspective on behavior patterns that you may have had your whole life. I mentioned the ones with me about the open throat, right? But you may lack self-worth or worthiness that leads you to seek recognition in inappropriate ways. I know that was something that I did with the blurting of my open throat. Or you may speak up at the wrong time. You may speak up and not have anybody hear you. Or you may have a hard time speaking up at all, and then you might feel invisible, like you don't matter. Or you find yourself kind of hiding and you're not even sure why. Or on the other side of it, you might be pushing to make things happen when you're not designed to actually do that. You're designed more to be recognized first before you speak up, or you're designed to respond because that helps you to understand if it's the right time for you to be doing something. And when you push to make things happen and it's not the right time, or it's really not even the right thing for you to do, that can totally lead you into burnout. You can be taking responsibility for other people's emotions. That leads you then to be like a peacemaker. Or on the other side of it, you can be avoiding situations because you're uncomfortable with conflict and you don't know how to just be in a situation where there's just comfort. Or you might start to feel unsafe. Or you might try to do things the way other people do them because it seems like it's worked for them, but it's not at all how you're designed to work. And so when you try to do things the way other people do, I see this in business and marketing all the time. You get frustrated, you get angry, you get disappointed, you can even become bitter. So those are just a few examples of behavioral patterns that you can get a better perspective on, and you can switch it around so that you have more agency. So human design can help you with your career and your work direction. It can help you understand if it's better for you to be more independent, right? Like for me, I am certifiably unemployable. I have to have my own business. I can't. Right. And one of the examples I mentioned to you earlier, she really needed to have more agency herself too, and for her to be more independent. Or whether it would be better for you to work in a small company, or whether it would be better to work in a larger institution. You can understand how much autonomy you might need and where your strengths are, or where some of your challenges are working with people, and what you can do about that. Human design can help you with your relationships. It can help you depersonalize the challenges that you might have with others by helping you to understand your own energy first, right? And to know what are the things that kind of can get stimulated for you with other people. Like I was saying, if you have a habit of taking on responsibility for other people's emotions or other people's well-being, right? But it helps you to understand somebody else's energy as well, and then how your energy and other people's energies intersect and stimulate each other. And you want to be able to depersonalize this. And that's why coming at it from an energy point of view is so beneficial compared to coming at it from a personality point of view or a wounded point of view, because you realize that's just the way somebody else is designed, or that's just the way that I'm designed. And we can have a lot more compassion for each other, a lot more acceptance, a lot more understanding. And then we can also negotiate much more effectively because we understand the ways that our energy works, and we can become more responsible for the way our energy impacts each other, not to make us bad or wrong, not to judge ourselves. I mean, that's what we tend to do. We tend to judge ourselves. We judge other people, right? It becomes a ping pong game of right and wrong, good and bad, which is not helpful. It's really not helpful in relationships at all. What's much more helpful is when we get, okay, kind of this is who you are. This is how things work for you. This is how your energy is. These are going to be the ways that you're going to tend to operate. This is who I am. This is how my energy operates. This is going to be the way that my energy is going to tend to impact you. Let's negotiate about how we can work together so that we can feel good around each other, and we can depersonalize it. And you can realize some of the things that somebody else might do, they're not doing it to piss you off or because they don't respect you or things like that. It's because of how their energy is. So I have worked with a couple in the past where I really talked to, that was a male female couple, and with the man, he has very, very strong energy. It's super fast. He's a super fast, pretty dominant manifesting generator, and being a man who's developed his left brain capacities, he's used to being in leadership positions. He's used to kind of being in charge, and that's great in his work life. Not so good in his relationship, okay? And one of the things that happened is that with the woman who's in the couple, she also has a lot of leadership energy, but her leadership energy expresses itself differently. She also doesn't have that super fast manifesting generator energy. And because of how gender gets expressed, and we've been conditioned to in our world, right, he became kind of more dominant in their relationship. And they've known about this, but they didn't quite know what to do about it. And it's been important for each of them to come to understand each of their individual energy better, and then be able to negotiate about, oh, okay, like I don't want to make you wrong for your fast energy, for your ability to take the lead, or even for your desire to be in charge. It doesn't make you bad. It also needs to be moderated so she can express her leadership energy more. She can be more in charge in certain areas, and that their relationship can become more balanced. A key part of this is that each person needs to take more responsibility for the impact of their energy and see that there's an energy dynamic that's going on here. It's not necessarily a personality dynamic, it's an energy dynamic. So this can really help you in your relationships. A lot of people, when they come to me for coaching, want to know how to better their relationships. And this is something that actually a client I did not mention to you came to me and she had an open emotional solar plexus. And because of that, she had a lot of patterns of codependence where she was a people pleaser, and she basically suppressed any of her own needs or desires to the point where she didn't know what they were. And she would just do what the other person wanted to do. And her dad really, kind of trained her into this, not because he was bad or wrong, but just because culturally that's what he thought was the appropriate thing to do. And so we really unraveled that conditioning for her so that she could then create meaningful, love, intimate relationships for herself that were not codependent. And finally, just one other area is this can help you with your children. It can help you understand how they're designed to operate in the world. I know this has been really helpful for me with my kid, not trying to make them to do or be things that they're not. Again, depersonalizing their energy patterns, honoring them for their inclinations, honoring them for who they are. This is particularly the case if you've got a projector child or a reflector child. But really, I have heard about people with pretty much every type, manifestors who are told that they should act more like generators and they shouldn't go out and initiate. And then generators are told that they should go out and initiate more. I mean, we get so conditioned to be different than how we're actually designed to be. And so when you as a parent, if you are a parent or you're considering becoming a parent, when you can understand your child's design, you can raise them really differently. You can raise them to be empowered according to their type, their strategy, their authority, and the other aspects of their design. So these are some of the many, many different things that human design can do for you, and what I think is brewing in the culture right now that is making human design appealing. It is some of the ways it can help you in your career and work situations, your family situations, your relationships, your relationship with yourself and with your own energy, your own spiritual growth, your own personal growth, your ability to activate and manifest your soul curriculum. And for you to really, life becomes so much easier and clearer when you live out of your design. I made a decision, I don't know, I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago now, to only do what I have energy for. And then if I don't have energy for something, either for a project at all or for a project at a particular time, that I won't work on it. because it's when I used to in the past, and this is how I burned myself out in the past, is I would force myself to do things that I thought were a good idea, but I actually didn't have the energy for it. And that is, I think, one of the reasons we have so much burnout that's going on out there, is we're forcing ourselves to do things that we don't really want to do and that we don't have energy for. So human design can direct us by helping us know what we have energy for and what we don't have energy for. And it can also get us in the flow of life, right? The greater flow of life that is bringing energy through the whole solar system and through our planet. And when we can align our lives with that, then we can ride that energy, and it will tell us, is it the right time to be doing something or not? And it can be like, that's a great idea, but it's not the right time. And even the best idea, trying to work on it at the wrong time, it's either not going to work, or it's not going to work as well as it could, or you're going to fry yourself. Okay. So that's one of the commitments that I made to myself when I really got my design and how I live it with my design. And I invite you to do the same kind of thing for yourself. So if wanting to live your human design is something that I hope I've inspired you to do, and you would like to take more steps in that direction, my Activate Your Superpowers group coaching program is open through next Tuesday. I have a special bonus, $200 off the registration price, plus get a half-hour reading with me as a bonus. That's just through next Tuesday, May 3rd. And the URL is right here. You can go check it out. You can also watch this video that I did last week about being part of the solution. And the second half of that video, it goes into a lot more detail about this program. So I'm not going to go into that right now. You can get the details on the registration page. You can get it on that video. You can ask me any questions that you want to. But what I would say is that the program would give you a comprehensive view of the human design system through 10, it'll be 11 because I'm adding a class on the planets, through 11 different video training segments, each of which has a work sheet that you can use to help you to digest and then apply what you learn to your own human design chart. But then we have 6 months of group coaching. And you can see, I hope from the examples that I gave you, why the coaching is significant. We need the coaching because even when we learn the information, because so much of it is different than the way we've been conditioned, we need help, basically, to be able to really take it in and digest it, integrate it, apply it, and then embody it in our lives to really live our design. Because just having it as a concept is not enough. And we truly grow in community. So that's why I've taken this course that when I originally did it, it was just a curriculum course. It was just like, here's the trainings, go ahead and do the trainings. And I turned it into a group coaching program because I understand the value of me being able to coach you through the things that you find challenging in both in your life and in how you're using human design in order to upgrade your life. So I hope that you will join me for this course if I've piqued your interest and if you've been feeling like you want to use human design as a tool and a map and a guide for you to really live your best life, for you to be a part of the solution, for your life to be meaningful, for you to make the contribution you came here to make, for you to know truly what your superpowers are, for you to be able to switch what you might have thought were character flaws more into real strengths that you have as you can take more agency there. These are all things that human design can do for you, especially when you're learning it in community and you're learning it with the kind of coaching that I can provide you with. So through next Tuesday, May 3rd, you can take $200 off, which will bring the investment down to $497. And also there's a 4-payment plan, which brings that down to just $147. Okay. You can just get started for $147, and for 4 payments. And you'll also get a half-hour human design reading, with me, which is usually like at least $150. So it's a great value. I only offer this once a year with the coaching. So I hope that you'll join me if you feel like I would be a good teacher for you. I would be a good mentor for you. And I personally would love to see you face to face. I do a lot of these videos. I don't get to see you. I really appreciate those of you who leave comments because it helps me know that I'm connecting with you. But there's nothing like us getting together and me getting to see you face to face. So having heard all of this, okay, and all of the possibilities of what human design can provide for you, I want to invite you to take a moment and just imagine where you're going to be a year from now if you keep on doing things the way that you've been doing them, whatever that might have been, or if you continue on the path that you've been on, and you don't really make a big change. Like, where will you be a year from now? Even if you're continuing on a path that in some ways might feel like a good option, how does that feel in your body when you imagine that? And then imagine where you might be a year from now if you took my Activate Your Superpowers class and you were able to really get your human design, you were able to implement it in your life, you were able to get more agency, and you were able to really live out your human design superpowers. You were able to make a lot of strides along your soul curriculum, and you are able to manifest your potential. How would that feel? Because that's really the opportunity that you have before you right now. Okay. If that feels like something you would like, I invite you to join me. I would be delighted. Okay. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.